this on. Hello legends, welcome back to the channel and thanks for being here. Today we're back with a little mini truck and we've got some suspension work to do. I'm going to swap out the ball joints on this car, and as a bonus I'm also going to swap out some of the bushings which I picked up along the way. So if you need to do a job like this on your car, then hopefully you'll like this video, and if you do, click that like button and follow along. Alright, let's get to it. Alrighty, so ball joints on a mini truck. This is a Mazda B2200 or Ford Courier if you're from where I'm from, and that is Australia. So what you're going to need to do is take off the wheel and you're going to find two ball joints, one on the top and one on the bottom. A few nuts and bolts will get them undone, so let's go, let's get to it. First things first, safety, get some gloves on. I've got these cut-proof gloves and I sell these, by the way, on Amazon. So if you need a good pair of work gloves that will stop you from cutting up your hand, check out the link in the description. Really good gloves. Okay, so the tools you're going to need are a jack and jack stands. You're going to need a big torque wrench, something that does 100 Newton meters plus. Get yourself some penetrant fluid ready, an impact gun or ratchet. An impact gun would be preferable. A light so you can see underneath the car, a hammer. You'll need a 23mm socket, a 21mm, a 19mm, an 18mm, a 17mm, a 14mm, a 13mm, and a 12mm socket. You will need two 14mm spanners. You'll need a pair of pliers. You'll also need a hook and a rope to hang up your calipers. You'll need a tape measure and some safety gloves. Now, cut-proof safety gloves are handy, and these are definitely that. And these are also nitrile coated so that you've got extra grip. Hello Jack, my old friend. Alright, so now before you do anything else, lubrication. Alrighty, so once you've let things soak for a little bit, the first thing you're going to need to do is undo your brake calipers and get these out of the way. What you're going to need is a 21mm, hopefully on a flexi joint so you can reach in and get these unwound. And just hang it somewhere out of the way. So I'm going to undo this tie rod end over here. Now, as you can see, I didn't pick this up before I started this job, but this tie rod end is absolutely done. So at some point in the future, I'm going to swap this out. But for today, we're just going to undo this nut and keep going. So we've got ourselves a cotter pin, which we'll need to take off. There we go. Always replace these. Don't put them back. All right, time to undo this nut. So that's just a 17. Give it a whack. There it goes. All right, so really all we've got to do now is undo this and undo this. These are two ball joints. So let's start with the bottom one. You're gonna need a 23 for this one. There she goes. All right, now we're gonna do this top one. Same kind of deal. So just get your cotter pin out, loosen the nut, and then just give it a couple of whacks. So at this point, this entire spindle here, everything, your brakes, your disc, this whole spindle will now come out. So just undo the nuts. Start with the bottom one. So there's the bottom one. All right, there's the top nut. And then just slide downwards. And there is your entire bottom spindle. So just put this out of the way. So this is why you want a good pair of work gloves at this point. These are nitrile coated, So I've got really good grip. They're breathable, so all the sweating gets to breathe out. And this fabric is actually cut proof, all right? So I'm protected from any cuts or scratches from all these sharp metal bits. So yeah, consider a pair of these. Link is in the description below. But here we are. So we've got ourselves access to the top ball joint and access to the bottom ball joint. So at this point, all you really got to do is undo the top and the bottom nuts. One day I'll be a good enough mechanic to just guess these off by heart, but it's actually a 12 mil there. So that's a 12 and that's a 14. 3 nuts on the top. And that'll be 3. So now your ball joint will come with it. And as you can see, mine is absolutely shot. Customary cleanup real quick, because obviously we take pride in our work. The new ball joint has something nice and clean to mate to, basically. All right, so I went with these Selby upper and lower ball joints. I got these from Rock Auto. They got 5 years warranty on them. So I'm gonna give them a shot. So here is the ball joint itself. There we go, 3 mounting bolts, and got ourselves a new nylon nut to put on the bottom. You are going to reuse the hardware, or are you? Let's see what else is. Oh no, new hardware. Excellent job, Selby. So in the box, you will also find new hardware to attach to this top arm over here. So this goes on like so. Just gonna zap these down for the moment. We will torque them down later. Looks like Selby's using 13mm hardware. Again, I'm just zapping them for the moment. We will torque these down in a second. All right, let's get this bottom one out. Same kind of deal, get the 4 bolts out. So at the bottom here, you're gonna need a 14mm. There we go. And there is another completely shot ball joint. Clean up in aisle 3. There we go, much better. Here is your new lower ball joint, and this one does not come with new hardware, but it does come with a grease nipple. I said nipple. And it does come with a new cotter pin. All right, so with these, you are going to need to reuse your old hardware. But basically, for those of you who are looking to increase your ride height, don't mount these like so, mount them like so. And what that'll do is it'll bring the spindle up quite a bit further and basically drop your car by, it looks like by about 1 inch or so. Now, you are going to need to cut this out for you to be able to do that. And just bear in mind that what happens here is when the wheel knocks against the car, you've got this bracket supporting the ball joint. But once you're up here, what's actually happening is when you get a knock like here, this is going to try to separate, okay, separate from this lower arm. So what you're going to need to do is get yourself some new hardware. These will not do. You're going to need to get a big washer on there and a nice high tensile nut and bolt and mount them from the top over here. You want a nice big purchase area on all of these bolts, because essentially when the wheel knocks on the floor, this ball joint is going to try to lift away from this control arm. So you want to get yourself some new bigger hardware. But that's really what you would do if you want to drop this another inch or so. That's something I may do in the future. At the moment, I got myself a little bit extra ride height because I've actually chopped down my bump stops here. So I've got myself about this much travel. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind if you want a little bit of extra ride height over here. But we're okay for now. These come pre-greased. You can see the grease in there, but they do have little grease nipples as well, in case you want to grease these up later on. Comes with a nice big castellated nut, and it also comes with a cotter pin. fresh cotter pin to go in there. All right, so for now, I'm just gonna mount these up. So don't forget about your washers. You'll need a washer on each one of these. Get a couple of these in. So just zap these down. There we go. Okay, time to torque these suckers down. So you want your top to be set at 30 Newton meters. So that's 30, just like that. All right, so we've got those at 30. Let's do these at 50. So that's 50. Beautiful. Okay, so now just quickly do the other side, and then at that point, you are pretty much going to be done. You just got to put your spindle back on. But like I said, I'm going to do a couple of other things because, well, stuff's just worn out. So I've got a little bit of a bonus here. I've got a few bushings to replace. So if you don't want to see that and you just want to see the spindle put back on and all you're doing is ball joints and you just want to finish up this video, head to this time code over here and that will show you how to finish everything off. But for now, stick around if you want to see how to swap some of these bushings out. Okie dokie, so the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is swap out your shock absorber bushings. These two up here, as you can see, mine is starting to crack up there. So we're gonna get some polyurethane bushings on there. Now, this is basically a couple of bushings, some grease, and here is the part number in case you also want to do this job. So really, all you're going to do here is undo these two top nuts. They basically captivate each other. So get two 14 millimeters, so that's 2, 1, 2, and just, there they go. So just give it a good yank, and then you'll find that these just come right off. That's one. These are coming off very smoothly for me, so I've obviously soaked these in penetrant fluid. So it's making quite like work of these nuts. So really now all you've got to do is take the top bushing off like that. Now keep in mind where these little washers go. All right, and the other thing I would do is on the floor here, I would make a note of which one's the top one. So for me, that's the top one. So I'll put it on the top there. And then this is the bottom one. So I'll just compress the shock absorber a bit here. And I'll take this off. There it goes. So that's the bottom one. So I'm gonna put that on the bottom like that. So I know that's the bottom and that's the top, and they're both facing upwards. Alrighty, so at this point, I'm just going to get these ready. So that'll be my top, that'll be my bottom. Doesn't really matter which one you put where because they are exactly the same. Got your lube ready. I'm just quickly gonna clean this shaft of all the old grease. There we go. My shocks aren't, they're pretty good, but they should bounce back a lot better than that, so might get some new shocks soon. But in any case, these bushings will help a lot because those rubber bushings are as old as the car, I think. So we're going to put the bottom bushing back first. So let's take the bottom washer. So this sits in like a cup, like so. So I'm just going to quickly clean that out. So I'm just going to run some grease in here. Now this grease was supplied so that you can put it in between the polyurethane bushings, otherwise they will squeak. All right, so that goes in like that into the little cup. Then you slide your bushing on like that, and then you want some grease on the top here too, so some grease in there. Get this lubed up like so. Just rest it on top basically, so that will then squish together and hold the bushing in place. So we'll just feed this through, and then I'm going to put the top one on as well. So here's our top one. Okay, it goes like that. This is the bottom tray, so I'm just going to give it a good clean. That now goes on the top. like so. Then you're going to run your second bushing in here. You just drop that on top, like so. All right, top nut goes on first. So remember, the thick one is the one you want to put on first. So all the way down to the bottom. You'll feel it bottom out. And that's it, just there. Then you put your smaller nut on the top. And then take both 14s, tighten this up. There we go, all done. Nice and tight. And that is how you replace your shock absorber bushings. So if you like how we're going so far, make sure you hit that like button so I know that I'm doing this thing right. And if you will do something differently, or if you have anything to add, make sure that you comment below. But let's keep going. So the next thing I want to do is sort out this sway bar. So this sway bar obviously runs from one side of the car to the other, and it is held on with these link pins, and also the sway bar to axis mount just in there. Can you see that? Maybe that's a better shot. So that thing there, all right? So I'm gonna replace that and all the bushings in here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in there, and then the other one just in there. I'm gonna swap all of those out. And what you're gonna need from Super Pro is these parts over here. So that's the part number for the sway bar to axis link, and this is what you're going to need for the link pin bushes. So the link pin bushes are really just a whole bunch of tiny little itty bitty urethane bushes, just like that. All right, so you're gonna have 8, I think, 2, 4, 6, 8, yep. So you've got 4 for one side and 4 for the other side. And with the sway bar bushes, you're going to get 2, so 1 for each side, and they gave you some extra lube as well. So remember, you want to get some lube in there and around there, and also on both sides of each bush, because if you don't lube these up, they will squeak, all right? So that's what this is for. Let's get to it. We've got another little double nut here, so let's get that undone first. Again, these are just 14s, so a thick one and a little one above it. And these ones are coming off a lot easier. All right, 2 nuts undone. And this is fairly loose. What I'm going to quickly do is loosen up the mounting bolts on the sway bar and undo the other side as well. So we'll take the top one off first. And then this will slide out. And you can take these away. Okay, so I've got this side out, and this is pretty much how it goes. So yeah, just take a moment to check this out. So basically, what's happening here is your sway bar is going in there, and then the mounting point on the control arm goes in there. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 bushes, just like so. So now that I've got that one undone as well, I'm gonna swap out these old sway bar mount bushes. It is just 4 bolts. So there it is, that's our front sway bar. So we've got our new bushings here and the grease as well. Now to swap these out is really simple. Just take the cradle off like that, both sides, and then these should pop off. Old versus new. Now again, you're just going to want to run some grease on these. Just going to run a little bit of grease in here. Drop these on the other side as well. And then these go over the top, just like that. Alrighty. Dropping these back on. So So these are 12mm bolts. God damn. Whew. I'm not gonna lie, those bushings are tight. Man, it was that tough to get in. I'm not gonna tighten it up just yet, in case I need some maneuverability to get these things on. We're just gonna make sure to keep these in order. So that's the top part. And then we've got the next part down. Then we've got our tube. And then we've got a lower section. And this is the last part just here. So I'm just gonna take this rubber out, like so. I'm gonna clean this up. So to start with, I'm gonna use a little bit of grease. There we go. A little bit more grease just in here. To put some grease in here. I'm also going to put some grease in here. There we go. Put that in like so. And then this one will go on top here. Then comes the tube. Sorry, no, then comes the top hat. Like so. Then comes the tube. Now comes the top hat that goes in there like so. There we go. So that squeezes together like that. Okay, so now a little bit of grease goes on the top. Slide one of these in, and with a little bit of grease, the top hat goes on. All right, so for the moment, I'm just gonna put a nut on, but I'm not gonna tighten anything down. Just gonna keep it held in place like so. And then I'm gonna do the other side. Okay, so now that I've got both in, I'm basically just gonna tighten these bolts down. You want both bolts to go down far enough so that you get a measurement of 18.5 millimeters on the end of the thread, end of the bolt like that. So basically all you gotta do is hold the bottom and then wind away. Now remember, you got a top nut that needs to go on, so it's 18.5 plus this is 5mm wide, so it's 18.5, so that means it's 23, you want about 24 Right now, we are at about 19mm. So you're gonna give it a couple more turns. See, that's 21. There we go, that's about 23, just a couple more turns. Right about there, let's have a look. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so now we'll just put the top nut on and basically tighten the two up. Yeah, that's good. That's right around 18mm. But this is how you tighten this down. There's no torque value per se, but you just want this value here to be around 18 to 19mm. All right, and that is that. Now don't forget to tighten up your brand new sway bar bushings. Now these don't need to be super tight, so just zap them up to begin with. And you want these at 30 Newton meters, that's 30. Quick wipe, job done. Brand new sway bar bracket bushings and brand new link pin bushings. So now this thing should be a lot tighter. Alrighty, so now that the sway bar is on and the shock bushings are back on, it's time to reattach hub, this thing. So obviously get all your nuts off and get them all ready. And line up the bottom one and slide it on. And put the bottom nut on. There we go. And then get a jack underneath your bottom spindle. There we go. Just lift it up a little bit. Slide the sucker in, just like so. Top nut goes on. We're going to come over on this side. And over here, we're going to reattach the control arm. I'm going to replace this at some point. Obviously, I'm not going to leave it like that. But just for now, it'll get me by while I order a part. Okay, so first, I always like to do the bottom nut first. This is a 23 millimeter. It's quite large. So let's just zip it up first. So this bottom nut needs to be quite tight. It needs to be around 120 Newton meters. There we go. Now don't forget, you got to put a cotter pin in. And I can see that the hole is just over here. I need to rotate the nut just a little bit more. Yeah, perfect. There we go. All right, time to tighten up this top nut here. So this one needs to be 50 Newton meters. Okay, there we go. Time to do up this puppy. So this is your control arm. Okay, I'm gonna do this to 50 as well and then put the cotter pin in. Okay, good stuff. So really now, all we've got to do is get this caliper back on here. So get your bolts ready. Just drop that away. There we go. So now we just got to torque these two bolts down to 100 Newton meters. That's 10. All right, time to put the wheels back on. So here we are the next morning and I'm just going for a quick spin. Now, has this made things any better? Well, I've just replaced a whole bunch of broken, worn out old parts. So yeah, it made things better. A couple of the squeaks that I used to have are now gone. The stability of the car is much better. It's not as floaty. I mean, it's no sports car still, but yeah, it definitely handles a little bit better. So that's good. All in all, not a really hard job to do at all. Really, you just need some basic hand tools, although the impact gun definitely helped, and you're dealing with some pretty tight bolts, so make sure that you've got a torque wrench handy. But other than that, fairly simple. You could really do this at home in your own garage, much like I have. Now there are a few other little things that I'll take care of later. I noticed that some of the steering components are in a similarly bad state, and honestly, that's to be expected. I mean, this is a 32-year-old little truck now, so things are likely to be worn, and this has had a hard life. You know, it was a farm truck for a very long time, so I highly doubt that the maintenance was kept up on this thing. But slowly, this thing is returning to its former glory, and maybe even better than when it was new. I mean, I hope so anyway, but comment below. Let me know what you guys think about this little truck as it stands right now. If you're just doing ball joints, honestly, this is an hour job. It's not very difficult at all. You're just undoing bolts and doing bolts back up and torquing them down. Don't forget that bit. So that's kind of it for the ball joint video, guys. I hope you enjoyed what you saw today, and if you did, give this video a like, hit the like button. Also comment below if you would have done anything differently. As always, I want these videos to be a definitive guide to anyone who's doing this job. So if you could do something better than I have today, or you've got any hints or tips for other people, write it in the comments below. As a final note, the way you can support this channel is with these things. Now, I've thought about selling merch and hoodies and what everyone else does, but I thought, why not start giving away things that are actually useful to you? And at the same time, you can help me, you can help support the channel that way. Now, these are the work gloves that I make through my brand, and they're really good cut-proof gloves that I've used in this video. They've really helped me out on this project. I've got absolutely no cuts or bruises on my fingers. All the grease and all the cuts and bruises have ended up on this glove. And I started using work gloves a while back. I never used to, but I do now because my day job is a desk job, and the last thing I want to do is work on these cars here and then go upstairs and ruin my equipment. You know, my keyboard and my desk, and get grease everywhere. And I'm sure your family will thank you for it too. You know, you're not always covered in grease or you've got your hands cut up. But anyway, check them out if you like. They're really good cut-proof gloves. I've made these specifically for people like me who like to work around the house, not just on cars, but on anything, you know, around the yard, construction, you name it. If you've got a little bit of a hard job to do, these are likely to help you out. Alrighty, and with that all said, I want to thank you for being here today. This was my video on how to change the ball joints on this little ute. It's a fairly simple process, but enough chit chat from me. If you like what you saw, go ahead and try this on your car, and I'll see you next time.